And come to the master brothers and sisters, we are finally back again for another reaction on this Mystelics Reacts channel. Big up all the masters for definitely tuning to another vibrations. All the Mystelics family, all you already know what's up. You didn't have to, but you chose to, and I appreciate you guys for definitely seeing what's up in this here regard. Of course, the interaction is necessary when it comes into the promotion of this here video. So if you definitely want to give your thoughts, leave your thoughts in the comment box below. Of course, this is where I give my thoughts on things pertaining to the Caribbean people, linking back to Dominica and extending to the international community right there. Of course, for the newcomers who are new to this here channel, I appreciate you guys for tuning in to see what's up. If you want to become a part of the Mystelics family, do what? Subscribe! And turn on that post notification so you can get the latest vibrations when they do definitely tend to come through. But of course, being notified in that regard and inadvertently becoming part of the Mystelics family as well. So I appreciate you guys for definitely doing so. Don't forget to click the thumbs up button, brothers and sisters. I would appreciate that right there. Click the like button and of course inadvertently helping, of course, to push these videos. The interaction is necessary, so give your thoughts in the comment box. Don't just listen to my thoughts, brothers and sisters. What are your thoughts? Leave your thoughts in the comment box, brothers and sisters. And with that said right there, let us get into the vibrations. Of course, we have this individuals that we've seen right there, brothers and sisters. They have been sent loose. Sent loose? No, brothers and sisters. They are out on bail, brothers and sisters, from my understanding right there. And clearly they have their lawyers. There's a number of them who actually have, well, they pretty much have the same lawyer, brothers and sisters, or the same lawyers, or group of lawyers, I'd have to say. And of course, matters will be dealt with accordingly. Of course, we have none other than Miss Paula and of course Miss Rosie right there. I'm not sure of the individual in the middle, but kudos for fighting for Dominica on behalf of Dominicans who don't want to fight for their own country. It's very interesting what is going on right there, brothers and sisters, but we must point it out right there. Kudos to these women. You guys are strong and you are truly the face of what women should actually be doing, standing up for justice, brothers and sisters, in the midst of when the society itself, even the government, can be unjustified. Rebuke Satan from him, brothers and sisters. And the government, not just him, but the system that they have created right there. Sometimes we tend to look at one individual not realizing that the system is also corrupt. This is why electoral reform was so necessarily needed. And unfortunately, I guess everybody screwed it up. And we'll talk about that hopefully on Sunday, brothers and sisters. So tune into that on BrBpTV right there. But of course, these individuals are out on bail. Thank God, $30,000 bail. As well as Siri, brothers and sisters. I remember mentioning Siri as well. Siri is also out. Yesterday they came out. And I think Bosso as well is also out as well on a $30,000 bail, which is very interesting. But of course, the Caribbean is also looking at what is taking place in Dominica, brothers and sisters. If Dominicans don't want to do it, well, the Caribbean will be involved in it. And of course, according to the Caribbean Democratic Union or Democrat Union, they have issued out a letter indicating that they strongly condemn the arrest and detention of opposition members in Dominica. The Caribbean Democratic Union is gravely alarmed by the recent reports emerging from the Commonwealth, the one-man wealth of Dominica, regarding the arrest and detention of members of the political opposition, oppositions, if you want to put plural in that regard, because you know, electoral. Anyways, brothers and sisters, opposition here, including Mr. Johnson Boston, who were exercising their rights, the constitutional right, mark you, not just the right, but the constitutional right, which of course the police, like I indicated yesterday, violated. No number of persons actually asked, well, Mystelics, the police cannot block the road too. Yes, they can block the road, you know, brothers and sisters. But they have to do so as citizens, and they have to then request permission to block the road. They cannot just take barrier and block road. What is that? So then anybody there, tell me who gives the authority to the police to come and block the road? Especially when people have the constitutional right to protest and assemble, as long as they are not disrupting. They are not disrupting. So the police can do it too. It's just interesting that people are creating some sort of new culture, abstract of the Constitution. But it's Constitution that guiding people. It's interesting. I also heard the sentiment of Mia Motley. Mia Motley saying that they sent RSS to Dominica on the merit that Dominicans apparently did not ask for permission to protest. That's insane. Mia, what on earth? And even if you don't know the Constitution in Dominica, which gives people the right to, without permission, to protest, even if, because the very Constitution was guided by the global scale of human rights, you know that? The very Constitution that is in Dominica that I read yesterday was made as a result of the global understanding of human rights. We gave humans the ability and the right to protest without permission. I actually showed you guys the US video that indicated the same thing. They indicated the same thing. That is a global right of citizens living in the democratic country. And not just the democratic country, but other countries as well. Therefore, it's a human right, a constitution. You don't need to seek permission. She come in and write letter to Thompson saying, the people did not seek permission to have protests. Rubbish, Mia. Absolutely irrevocable foolishness. You was talking right there. That self needs to be adjusted, because even if you didn't know about the constitution in Dominica, you should be guided by the global constitution that gave human rights the ability for them to protest without permission. As long, and the constitution is clear, as long as you are not obstructing other people's rights. And if you need to definitely obstruct people's rights, which the police cannot deny in the first place, therefore they need to seek permission if they're blocking places like the roads and stuff. They need to seek permission. On the merit of seeking permission, they cannot be denied on the merit of, because they're going to be speaking against the government. Rubbish. Mia, what they did was absolutely rubbish. Ridiculous, Mia. Oh, somebody who's I think, you know, come on. Anyways, let me continue. Including Boston, Bosso, who exercised their constitutional right to peacefully protest and raise legitimate concerns. Now, keep in mind, brothers and sisters, you saw the ruckus that was happening. The ruckus that was happening was as a result of the police breaking the constitutional right, not the citizens. The citizens were fighting for their right to do what needed to be done. The police came and obstruct their constitutional right. That is where it happened. So when you saw the ruckus, it wasn't the people that was causing the unconstitutional business. Because if that wasn't there, the people then would have to act in accordance to the peaceful protest, that of which they wanted to do in the first place. So all the ruckus you saw was on behalf or as a cause of the police themselves, or whoever sent them. Who sent them, brothers and sisters? Or who sent those who sent them? Very interesting stuff. Mia, you also greatly disappointed me in that regard right there. So exercising their right to peacefully protest and raise legitimate concerns about the state of electoral reform in the country, in Dominica. Electoral reform is critical to the integrity of the electoral process and the administration of free and fair elections, which of course in Dominica we still do not have. Tune in, brothers and sisters. Tune in on Sunday right there. This blatant abuse of state power is only unconscionable. It is undemocratic and deeply dangerous. Yes, it is. Because you're stepping on the rights out of which you are not. You didn't give people the right. How on earth you decide to stake, boy? But I don't understand these people, man. The arrest of citizens for exercising their rights to freedom of expression, freedom of assembly. I read this stuff yesterday. If you didn't tune into the previous reaction, tune in at the end of this here video. I'll post it somewhere so you guys can check it out right there. Peaceful assembly and peaceful protest is a direct affront to the democratic principles enshrined in the Constitution of Dominica. Not just Dominica, but globally as well. I know what I say, you know, you might not know what I say, but I know exactly what I saying right there. So even if Mia, like I indicated before, she did not know the Constitution, she should have been guided by the global, what is enshrined globally, which indicates that the people do not need to go and get no permission from no police. The police are public servants. The police have a right to protest too, you know. As citizens, when they put on the uniform, they are servants of the people. That is what they are. And people apparently don't seem to understand this at all. But don't worry, they will understand. We are witnessing what appears to be a disturbing and deliberate trend. Yes. And like I indicated yesterday, brothers and sisters, I believe that trend started when the Prime Minister and the President of Dominica, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, indicated that the opposition, when they did their voting to bring back the former quote-unquote opposition leader, Jess Mapole, when all of them voted, except one person, voted for them to bring back Jess Mapole as the opposition leader, which indicated under the Constitution that the people who are part of the House of Assembly, not just those who are elected, but those who are part of the House, brothers and sisters, have the right to vote. It indicated that, and as a result of that, the president decided she not put in no opposition leader. Really? Really? But nobody challenging that in court. That's crazy right there, bro. That's crazy right there. The erosion of democracy norms signals a dark and dangerous turn, one that should alarm every right-thinking Dominican. Yes, there's a lot of left-thinking and not thinking Dominicans at all when it comes down to the situation. You need to be thinking properly, brothers and sisters. Forget your feelings. Throw them away. Forget your feelings, brothers and sisters. Dominican and every citizen of the Caribbean who believes in justice, accountability, and the rule of law. Let it be clearly stated, political dissent is not a crime. It is not a crime. So when they started dropping tear gas and all those kind of things on people, that is the crime right there. They are going against the people's constitutional right. Gasa, if I was the judge, boy, I would have a field day with this one. So political dissent is not a crime. Speaking out against the government is not a crime. Assembling to peacefully protest is not a crime, which is what the people wanted to do, but the police came and agitated the people, causing the ruckus that has happened. So the main blame is on the police, brothers and sisters, who apparently don't even know their own rules. These are the hallmarks of a functioning democracy, not threat to it. Facts. The heavy-handed actions of the authorities in Dominica bear the hallmark of authoritarian, yes, regime and dictatorship that have no place in the Caribbean. Root it out, brothers and sisters. Rebuke it from the bottomless pit that it came from. This is not just a local issue. It is a regional concern. It is. The preservation of democracy in one Caribbean nation is the shared responsibility of all. And I think a number of persons, when it comes down to the elites, when I talk elites, the government officials, who apparently don't know, they need to clarify before they do foolishness. Just like Chastney did the other day, when it was a bit late, when he understood what was going on. You know, this is what he was advising Caribbean leaders not to act unless they know what is taking place. They don't know, they just listen to Scarrett. And they don't know Scarrett like to lie in Dominica. If Scarrett like to lie in Dominica, don't you think he'll come and lie to you? I find it's very interesting what is taking place when it comes down to Dominica, brothers and sisters. Fundamental rights and freedoms of all Dominicans, regardless of political affiliation, are protected and preserved by the very constitution that's supposed to guide them as well. Not just the people, but them as well. We further call on the democratic forces, civil society actors, religious leaders, regional and regional organizations, including the OECS, and the people of Dominica, especially the youth. Well, the youth is CWO. Some of their head not good. Their head bunks, brothers and sisters. It bunks repeatedly. Some of them. So the CWO. See where I come for. All right. They don't care about themselves, and then they come in and thief or do all sorts of strange things. But I tell you. Anyways, especially the youth to unite in full condemnation of these abuses. Silence in the face of injustice is complicity, yes. Just like when people are staying silent about what is taking place, and then when you reach their doorstep, they say, somebody come and help me. There's an African proverb about that, brothers and sisters. They came for the Catholics, they came for this, they came for this, and they came for that. And then finally they came for you. And when they came for you, had nobody because everybody else was taken. That's why unity is so important when it comes down to the situation that is happening, brothers and sisters. Let me read that again. Silence in the face of injustice is complicity. Just like when people say, I'm not going to vote, and then they want something to happen in the country. Boy, I'm telling you, now is the time to speak out. Democracy in Dominica is under threat. We must defend it. That's facts. It is under threat. It is definitely under threat. Sorry about that, brothers and sisters, but it's definitely under threat right there. I asked this question yesterday, brothers and sisters, and this is the question that comes back yet again today. Where is the dictator? Bring the coward forward. He's apparently hiding. I tell you, boy, because you know what he's doing. Just like the situation that took place in Kepinski. Wasn't he in Kepinski when Choksi came? Them planning to do things all of a sudden here in some plane from India reach Dominica. And they want to pretend as if they don't, nothing doing. Is that the term they use now? Nothing doing. Pretend still, brothers and sisters. If you want to act blind, that's your business. Anyways, let's head on to the economy of Dominica, brothers and sisters. And we have yet again the legendary himself, Professor Lumumba. This is a very wise man right there. I want you guys to listen to him when it comes to the situation of the economy. And it's interesting that sometimes he's not talking about the Caribbean, he's not talking about Dominica, but this is very much related to Dominica. Tell me I lie, brothers and sisters. Let's take a listen.
When a little country whose GDP is no more than $2 billion also...
No more than $2 billion, brothers and sisters. Remember when Gaston Brown was laughing Dominicans? One of Skerritt's friends laughing Dominicans about the GDP factor of Dominica. And they say in 10 years alone, our GDP already long time higher than Dominica, but just in 10 years, just the boost alone we did in 10 years, that boost alone is more than the GDP in Dominica. The boost alone. And we have a less than $2 billion economy.
When a little country whose GDP is no more than $2 billion also has a president with a cabinet, with a parliament, which is bicameral, with embassies all over the world, and the country, the president of that country with a GDP of $2 billion.
Guys, keep in mind, we have all sorts of ambassadors all over the place. Yeah, we have ambassadors all over. Remember Ali Reza? You remember the amount of diplomats that were criminals that are our passports, brothers and sisters? Remember the very criminal that came down that had a diplomatic passport, escaping his country because they find out the rubbish he was doing, using Dominica passport to do his dirty ways. Scary them that give him it to you. It's not me that said that, brothers and sisters. Al Jazeera them that stated that it was Skerritt that gave him the diplomatic passport. How else would he get it? He printed his own diplomatic passport.
Enters into a bilateral meeting with the president of China.
Brothers and sisters, we'll talk about China in a while.
And you say that all nations are equal. If there was ever a joke, that is one.
That is definitely one. You're saying you want a bilateral relations with China, massive China, with the little country, and think the little country going to benefit China, except the only thing that they're using the little countries for is for their benefit. Their benefit. When students go overseas and study, who do you think they're giving them scholarship? China?
Part of the reason why Africa cannot compete is because Africa is weak.
Part of the reason why Dominica cannot compete in the very Caribbean is because we have weak leaders. Or leaders that know exactly what they're doing and making sure that the other Caribbean islands go up while Dominica falls short intentionally.
And we are weak because we are divided into 55 odd countries.
Brothers and sisters, I mean, doesn't this sound like Dominica? I mean, don't we not see? Don't we not see it? Huh? Where the government themselves have turned away their backs on people that know that they're suffering in unifying, in a unity they're suffering in Dominica. But when it comes on to politics, it's my party that there, and I will vote for my party. It's my mother party, my father party, I'll vote for it. And you dare suffer in Casa.
Created in Berlin, and we are allowing ourselves to fight amongst
ourselves. Because I sometimes scare them, send the police. They're not showing up, you know. They're sending the police to do their bidding. And the police just have to obey whatever orders are being told to them. That's all. But I think the police should be guided by the Constitution and say, I'm not involved in that. But then if one police does it and if two people does it, then they'll end up getting terminated. But if it was a unified front with the police force and say, hey, this is not Constitution, we shall not stand with this, they'll have to fire everybody, or they'll have to bow to the very people that they know that they cannot fire. It's interesting.
And
the people united. When one person go down and they say, no, what you did was not right, you have to bring that back to bring back that person. This time, but everybody's for themselves. Oh, it's me. But this is where the great book spoke about greed. It's about greed. Sometimes we're sharing all sorts of things, but when it comes down to actually doing what's right or standing with what is right, we don't. Or we say we're giving food to the poor, all those kind of things there, but inadvertently creating the very poor conditions by voting for the people that creating a bad economy that then induces poverty.
As you who are beautiful Kiswahili speakers know and say,
big up to my Swahili followers right there. I have some people in Swahili right there. I'm looking for an additional part where he's talking about right there.
And that is exactly what is happening today. The Because are fighting and the Kunguru is ever so happy. They come in and take what they want.
When the people are fighting, the other people, the foreigners, all these people coming in and take what they want. All of a sudden, you're in people own land and they cannot sell because land is owned by somebody else. What has happened with the UWP's designated area for the airport? You guys never ask yourself that question?
And meanwhile, we are left fighting. You tell me, the Democratic Republic of Congo, which is easily the wealthiest nation on earth.
Dominica is easily the wealthiest nation in the Caribbean when it comes down to resources. We have land, soil, we have sun, we have waters. Antigua have soil and they have sun, barely water. Some places, brothers and sisters, Dominica, I talking about, that's how we have variations of soil. We have both white and black sand beaches. I think there's all other color of beach we have, on a fusion or something of that sort. But we have both white and black sand beaches, brothers and sisters. Antigua full of white sand beaches. We have both of them. We have bare water. We have more water in Antigua in Dominica than Dominica have water in Antigua. Tell me a lie. In fact, we have more Antigua water in Dominica than we have Dominica water in Dominica. We have more Trinidadian water in Dominica than we have Dominica water in Trinidad and in Dominica. Oh, listen what I telling all you. Oh, no, all you don't understand.
Conservatively, it is said that her resources under her belly are in the tune of 34 trillion United States dollars. Yet paradoxically and ironically at once, it's one of the poorest nations on earth.
You talking about Africa and certain places there, and talking about the resources that they have. $34 trillion resources. Yet still is one of the poorest nations in Africa. Dominica has so much resources, brothers and sisters, that of which is not being utilized. Well, it's interesting. Anyways, they're talking about China and the invasion of China in a number of places, so forth and so forth. But there's something interesting that I have to point out right there when it comes on to the situation involving the Caribbean and Cuba. So I must point that out as well. But anyways, on the merit of what was being stated right there, the worst part about this economy, brothers and sisters, is that you will have money, as if you have money, spend it wisely, and still get broke, then now beating yourself up for wasting the money that you just spend wisely. But in reality, everything is just so effing expensive. In reality, Dominica, you can try to budget. Remember, Skert was trying to teach people how to budget when he got a $4,000+ raise in his salary, teaching people how to try to budget $200. Boy, oh my goodness. I remember one time I was speaking to some individuals when they come with motivational speaking. These as people I was talking to 2 billionaires that was in Washington. And I was talking to them, and they tell me they come to give different speeches and this kind of things. But they know sometimes, well, most times, this speech might motivate individuals to actually act, so that they will know, go and do the research and then act in accordance to the research that they've done. But they know sometimes what they're telling people is not accurate. They know it's like motivational speaking to motivate you. But they know there are certain metrics that you need to succeed. There are certain metrics that Dominica is losing or has lost already to succeed. He needs spending power of the people. One, that is gone. I mean, come on. When you have to go and beg your prime minister to pay your light bill. I mean, come on. That's what I'm telling you. The population size is shrinking, brothers and sisters. I think it was about 84,000 people. It is down to 70,000. They say, I think it's down to 50,000 people in Dominica. That's what I think, because the amount of people I know left Dominica, and the amount of people that is leaving Dominica, and the amount of people that just left Dominica is a lot. And I also encourage more people to leave Dominica, because Skerrit seems like he wants to create some sort of utopia for him to be king. and then you have a number of persons subjected to the very economy that is destroyed, thus making you dependent on him. It's interesting how that cycle goes, brothers and sisters. It's interesting. But anyways, on the concern of the situation involving the Cuba fiasco, and Marco Rubio came to Jamaica recently, brothers and sisters, and the issue of Cuba came up. And this is what they have to say in that regard right there.
Secretary Rubio, my question is, or questions, in relation to the matter of the Cuban Medical Corporation program as well. So the medical mission has...
I like that girl. I like her.
...has been a cornerstone of healthcare in Jamaica and the Caribbean for over 50 years, according to our foreign minister. How does the U.S. reconcile its stance on this program with the region's reliance on Cuban medical professionals, and what alternatives does it propose to ensure healthcare?
Well, yeah, I think the first thing is to separate the medical from the labor issues that we are pointing to. Okay, this is not about doctors. Okay, this is not about the provision of medical assistance. We have no problem with medical assistance. We have no problem with doctors. We have a problem, and I'm not speaking about Jamaica. We've discussed this today about, following international labor standards and the like, but I'm just talking about this program in general, how it's operated around the world. And how it's operated around the world is that basically the doctors are not paid. In many other parts of the world, the doctors are not paid. You pay the Cuban government. The Cuban government decides how much of anything to give them. They take away their passports. They basically operate as forced labor.
So he's pretty much saying that what is happening, Cuba sends out doctors all over the world. They send out doctors from Cuba all over the world, and these Cuban doctors are working in different fields, and instead of them getting paid, it is the Cuban government that gets paid. However, in the Caribbean, that is not the case. I can tell you that is the case because I remember when Mia Motley herself was talking about she paid the Cuban doctors the equivalent of what the Bajan doctors were getting. Jamaica is doing the same thing too. A number of Caribbean islands, I'm sure Dominica is doing the same thing too as well. They maybe have to send a portion of that money back because remember, it's Cuba that trained them. Cuba that trained these doctors, and they're sending them out there as some sort of, that's doctors are Cuban exports. Then they export them all over the place, and as a result of exporting them, then I guess monies come back as a result of this. But I think it will only make sense that someone, but I wouldn't say they're taking their part. I don't understand. That doesn't happen in the Caribbean, from my understanding. Nowhere I know where Cuban doctors, and I know some of them, their passports are not, why are their passports taken? So maybe that's happening somewhere else, but it's not happening in the Caribbean. So whatever situation that the United States sees that is happening somewhere, you cannot associate that to the Caribbean. That doesn't make sense at all.
In many places. Now, there are places that have better labor standards. Perhaps Jamaica is one of those.
That's exactly what I'm saying. He's talking about Jamaica has better labor standards.
And that's fine. But I'm describing generally what the program has been. It has operated in that way in many parts of the world and placed these people in tremendous danger.
I understand that. But you focus on the places where they place these people in danger. You don't put it on everybody. That doesn't make sense. You do not put it on places where they have the good standards for the Cuban doctors. The Cuban doctors get paid. I personally believe that the Cuban doctors should get paid, and then some sort of money, maybe 20% or something, should go back to the country. That's what I believe. Because it is them that have trained them to become to the level that they are, where they can go out and do marvelous things across the world. So I definitely do think that some sort of money should go, or the Cuban doctors should get paid, and as a result of the Cubans sending them different places, then some money should also go back to the Cuban doctors as a result of that. Or some money should be paid before they send, like there's a deposit. So there's a deposit that should go to the country, and then when the Cuban doctors are working, then the Cuban doctors get paid themselves. I don't know the whole fiasco of it, but I know in the Caribbean, Cuban doctors get paid. The money is what he's saying, it doesn't happen. So when you focus on this, you should go after the countries that are actually doing these things and using these Cuban doctors as slaves, so to speak. That is where you should go. You shouldn't just put that on everybody and think. You should figure out this thing just like Mia Motley should have done, to understand that people have a right to protest and don't need no permission from no police to go and protest. None at all. The only permission that they need is when they need to block up the road, and as a result, that is where they need to do it. That's where they need to get permission. So anyways, let's continue.
And so I think we can all agree that the trafficking in labor, be they doctors or farm workers, is not something that we would want to be supportive of. And we find that to be an egregious practice on the part of the Cuban regime. Now, every country operates their program differently. And obviously, because of our relationship with Jamaica, we're going to engage with them on that and talk about it further and have a better understanding. Perhaps none of this applies in the way it's handled here.
That's the point I'm making. So, but you did say that you guys are going to have a greater understanding in that regard before you continue to do your thing, which is good. But I do think that you need to bring sanctions on Dominica, okay? Not for that merit, for the merits. But the Jamaican Prime Minister said something in that regard as well.
In terms of Cuban doctors in Jamaica, let us be clear. The Cuban doctors in Jamaica have been incredibly helpful to us. Jamaica has a deficit in health personnel, primarily because many of our health personnel have migrated to other countries. We are, however, very careful not to exploit the Cuban doctors who are here. We ensure that they are treated within our labor laws and benefit like any other worker. So any characterization of the program by others certainly would not be applicable to Jamaica. We are ensuring that our program complies with all the international laws and standards to which we are a party to.
So they pretty much gave them the understanding that, yeah, we understand what you guys are saying, but this thing that you're talking about right there doesn't apply to us. So that's why I'm saying that they should go after the individuals who are doing these things. Don't go after the people who are not doing these things. And it's a good thing that you're talking about having a greater understanding in that regard. Yeah, the Cuban doctors are doing wonderful, and as a result of that, they are not being exploited. If they were exploited in the Caribbean, that's another situation. But they're not being exploited. If they were exploited in the Caribbean, I understand, but they're not being exploited. That's two completely contrary things. If they go in somewhere in Afghanistan or Middle East somewhere, and they're exploiting them, and they're taking their passports and so forth, that is completely different. You should go after these people. That's my take in that regard right there. And who's taking whose passport though? Who's taking whose passport? You mean to tell me if they send them, let's say they send them to Chile, I just call it name. They send them to Timbuktu. Timbuktu is a very rich place. But anyway, they send them somewhere, Francis. They send them Middle East. And the Middle Easterns are taking their passports so that they cannot travel, they cannot go anywhere, they're using them and abusing them. That's a different story right there. These are the people that you guys need to go after. That's my thoughts on it, brothers and sisters. What are your thoughts? Leave your thoughts in the comment box below right there. Tune in tomorrow, brothers and sisters. I told you a different video today, but of course I'll do it tomorrow in that regard right there. Anyways, brothers and sisters, let me know your thoughts. Leave your thoughts in the comment box below. Of course, the engagement helps this channel to push further and further. And of course, click the thumbs up button. I would appreciate that right there. Let me know your thoughts, guys. These are my thoughts. And with that said right there, be real. Salute the king always. Be positive.